Mate, Mr. Pallier, how are you?
Oh, good morning, Ivan. Great to speak. So you're in Austin, Texas right now.
Yes, you bet, mate. You know it well.
That's
You must be,
remarkable, isn't it?
you must be
Technology.
some technologies. Let me guess where you are. Rose Bay, Vaucluse, or Double Bay?
You're very good. I'm in Bellevue Hill right now. So very close.
Sorry.
Just but it's funny because it's 10:42 in the morning here and I can see the sun setting in the background behind you.
I know it's exactly, mate. The Texas sunsets are something to be seen, Michael. Have you ever been to Texas?
No, never been there.
You're
What
invited.
type of gun do you have?
You're invited. I'd like you to come and stay. We'd have fun. What did you say?
What
Oh, we
do
just
you
got
own?
what? Say that again. We got cut off.
What type of gun do you own?
I do have a gun. I've got a 9 millimeter. I do.
I think everyone has a gun in Texas now.
Mate, trying to get my head around it at the start was like, wow, but you realize it was my ex-wife who actually said we should get one when she got pregnant, when a baby was coming. I said, okay. So we walked into a store and we bought one, and
Really? Wow, it's amazing. Yeah, different world over there.
it's a different world. Michael, I've got a
Yeah.
question straight off the bat. You know what the whole industry, I mean, you're one of just everyone knows Michael Pallier. You don't need any introduction, but you are the guru salesperson of the Harbourside Eastern Suburbs. You and I have had a long association. We worked. We'll get
Yeah.
into it in a second. Um, but
Yeah.
I've got a question straight off the bat. How
Yes,
do you,
Ivan.
how do you remember everybody's name?
Well, I don't remember everybody's name. I just try to remember as many as I can.
But you have a reputation that you know that you remember everybody's name, and that you always say, "Oh, hello, Martin. G'day, g'day, Ivan. How are you? Luke, how are you? Michelle, how are you?" Is that? Have you always had a good memory?
Yeah, I've always had a good memory. But if I find people interesting, I generally remember who they are and then I can remember their name when I go back to see them again.
I just finished reading How to Win Friends and Influence People for a second time, and that is
Yeah,
like
I heard it, isn't it? I heard it's a great book.
great book, and that is if
Dale,
you people
Dale
love
Carnegie.
Dale Carnegie, and people love hearing that you can't address anyone any better than using their first name, and that's probably
Yeah,
why you're so well liked. I mean, you're a very liked. How would
it's
you
not intentional.
how how would you describe your style?
I don't know that there is much style there. Just I just been around a long time.
Yeah.
So it's just been doing the same thing. I know lots of people. So that's all I do. I just do the very best I can for every client, and that's all I've ever done. I've never prospected, never had time to really prospect. And I just think if you do a good job for your clients and you stay in the one area for long enough, you'll always have business. And that's all I've ever done.
I don't think that is true about prospecting, because I remember early days McGrath when you came into McGrath Partners from Mercedes Sanderson's.
Yeah. Do you know something funny, Ivan? I've just been with my very best friend, Barry Goldman.
Yeah.
Barry and I we started working together. Next month will be 27 years ago at McGrath with the wonderful John McGrath and yourself and Shannon Whitney, James Dack, Ben Collier, Bethwyn Richards. We're all there together, weren't we? We've all survived, which has been great. And Barry and I were just together half an hour ago. We are just reminiscing.
Mate, that was the all-stars of the all-stars. When you think about the 20 years after we were all together, Pauline Goodyear, Alex Phillips, you
Paul,
know,
yeah, we're
Wayne
still
Hart,
working together.
Paul
Yeah,
Lang's,
Wayne.
Adrian Bowe, Bethwyn
And
Richard, Matt
do you
LaHoods,
know who?
the late Stephen
You know
McGrath,
who?
God bless him,
Yeah, very sad. Stephen passing away. The late Len Reynolds.
the late Len Reynolds, another one, Shannon Whitney. So it
Yeah,
was,
that's
but when you came across, because for anyone who's listening, Michael was the number one Mercedes car salesman. John McGrath was buying his cars down there from Will and Michael. Michael comes into real estate. You did prospect Michael, because I remember you calling all your Mercedes-Benz clients to tell them that you're in real estate.
Oh yeah, well I suppose that is prospecting when you think of it, isn't it?
Because that's what you
That,
started.
yeah, that's right, I did. And they all said to me, "You're good at selling cars, but you know nothing about real estate." So we've got another. We already have a real estate agent we deal with. It was a bit heartbreaking, I must say. And then it was like, "Oh my God, I think I made a wrong decision here." But I just kept going, and that's all you can do. It was hard, but then that was 1997. But then
Yeah,
we had a big
yeah.
we had a big stock market crash and the houses stopped selling. So
Yeah.
I couldn't get the listing the first time round, but I started getting them the second time round, and then got lucky and pulled off a big sale with Barry and in Point Piper for 7.35 million back then in 1998. And then it was written up in the newspaper of how these young guys had just started in the industry and they sold the third most expensive house in Australia that year. And it was a whole article written about it. And then after that, a lot of the clients that already knew from Mercedes-Benz days, they started calling me saying, I've got this house that hasn't sold. Can you come and have a look? And then one thing led to another, and we kept getting the good results. And then just 27 years later, it's still going.
Yeah, awesome, mate. And you deserve. Such a hard worker. How come you made the move from Mercedes? Because you're doing quite well there.
Oh,
And
yeah.
how old were you at that time, if you don't mind me asking?
I must have been 33, I think, at the time.
Yes,
33 or 34 when I started real estate.
that's a big move because you're a great salesperson down there. Then you move into real estate, like completely new industry. Why I never asked you that. Why did you make that
I
move?
was the I was the number one salesperson in Australia every year for Mercedes-Benz. So I was selling lots of cars. I was doing about 150 sales a year selling the Mercedes-Benz, which was a lot at the time. It was 5% of all of the sales of Mercedes-Benz in New South Wales at that time. So Mercedes weren't selling that many cars back in 1997. It wasn't, their company's grown a lot since that time.
Mm.
So well, a lot of my clients had nice houses. And then one of my clients, Stephen and Carol Moss, they had a fantastic house in Point Piper. And they bought a Mercedes S500, a big Mercedes, when I first met them. And I took them out to the Milpera, which is about an hour out of the eastern suburbs, where the big Bond store was for Mercedes-Benz, and they chose the colour of their car. And they said, geez, you've done such a good job selling us this car. Why aren't you selling houses? You could do really well selling houses because you know all the same people. So, God, that's a good idea. So within a year, I was out selling houses. That's what I did. I made the jump. But I was at the start, the first 3 months, it was very, very hard. I think I sold one 2-bedroom unit for 260,000 in that 3-month period. And I was going around with my friend Barry Goldman. We started the same week and we were learning the market, going to all the open for inspections and learning the market. And it was a bit mind numbing, I must say, from coming from a high base selling cars to just nothing in real estate, but working really hard, working harder than ever worked. But,
Yeah.
one thing led to another and then it slowly started going. And then it just turned probably after about 3 years, it really turned and it started to get very busy selling real estate. So, but it was very hard that first 3 years.
Yeah. So if you go, is it like it'd be great to know what you do now, but mate, no one's Michael Pallier. Like what you do now is you're the number one agent in that market. So, but that first 3 years where you're getting rejected and that you're up against the Bill Maloofs, the Bart Doffs, the Michael
Yeah,
Dunns, Mike Guffs,
Michael,
the Godfathers,
Michael.
the
Yeah,
Godfather. Hey,
they were doing really, really well, those agents, and they were really big competition for us. So we had to just had to do the very best we could on every sale. And James Dack was the guy that really taught me what to do because he was, I don't know if everyone knows, but he was the number one salesman for many years at McGrath. He was a top salesperson.
yeah.
And James came to me one day and he said, look, what you need to do, he said, don't select a certain market, take on anything. But he said, make sure you do a great job for every client. And he said, if you do a great job for every client, it's only a matter of time. If you can stay in it long enough, you'll be very successful. And I listened to what he said, and Barry and I, we just followed exactly what he said. We just worked really hard. And we just worked really hard. Best prices.
James Dack was the man, wasn't he, for a good 10, 15?
Oh, he was amazing, wasn't he? He was
Yeah.
handsome like a movie star. And the people used to come to the opens and give them the babies and say, kiss my baby. Remember that?
Yeah, he was a god. He was a god. There was John
He was.
McGrath, but also
Yeah.
James Dack was untouchable because he was 7 foot two. He was 7 foot as well. So when he was in the room, you knew he was there.
He had a presence about him, didn't he? And
He
John
did.
McGrath was such a genius. I remember, do you remember John McGrath gave us that speech? John would have a meeting, a Monday morning sales meeting, and he'd have the Rocky music playing, and he'd come in like Rocky,
Yeah.
and we'd all, John, we'd be doing that as he came in the door. And then I remember one day he had a meeting. He said, I'm going to have a meeting here, and I'm going to say something that's very important. He said, there's a thing that's coming, and it's called the internet, and I think it's going to be big. Do you remember he said that?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. We were like, what's the internet? What's that? No idea what it was. And he said, and one day we're going to have a paperless office. We're not going to have any paperwork. And remember, he used to go around and check all of our desks and see how tidy they were and all that. And
He was,
John
mate,
was amazing.
that was, how good were those days?
They were great. They were so good. John was so far ahead of his time.
He was.
He could see the future, couldn't he?
He really
And
could.
he
It
built
was
such a
inspirational.
business.
Like whatever he said at that Monday morning sales meeting, mate, we would just all jump out there and just like, we were just busting at the seams to get on the phones and, and make it and build
Yeah.
a dream, make our dreams come true.
Oh yeah. John was amazing.
He
And
was.
he taught us so many great things for the future.
Mm,
And he could just see the future. But he was doing so well. He was only young and he was just doing so well, wasn't he,
yeah.
when you think of it? So
Yeah.
I
We
think
were
we've all got
very
a
lucky,
lot to be
Michael.
thankful for.
We were very lucky that we were able to
Oh
be
my
that.
God. Well, have a look at the people that have come out of the people you just mentioned that have come out of his office.
Yeah.
So many have been so successful. It's been crazy. So
It's,
that was the best training ground you
yeah.
could ever. I mean,
And
I
then,
remember you were a junior person at that time, weren't you? Remember that?
mate, 97,
Just
when you and Barry started, I was doing leasing that year. So, and then I started with Shannon in 98. So we were on the same floor because we moved from, were you there at Juniper Hall?
yeah, it was, yeah. No
And
air
then,
conditioning.
and then we
Stinking
moved to,
hot. Remember?
and then we moved to that beautiful office in Edgecliff, that one,
Yeah,
which
that's right. That's
I
right.
remember when you left and I was like, I can't believe Pallier and Goldman are leaving because John brought you in, or, you worked with us for a
Yeah,
while. And mate, when you guys
yeah.
left, I was like, oh, that's a loss. How
It
long,
was sad that
how long did you last at
we
McGrath?
were there for a year. We were there for 1 year, and then we went to work for Bart Doff, and he was a great mentor. Also, he's now passed away too, but he was an amazing. He was like the number one
He was.
agent in the Harbourside area.
Yeah,
So it was hard to leave, but it was the right thing to do.
it was.
Yeah, we worked for Bart, and we learnt the skills from him, and it
Yes.
was great. And became lifelong friends with Bart. But he passed away about 2 years ago. It's very sad. He was only 75, but he was a phenomenal agent. Boy, the business he did. He
Mm.
was a very successful person.
Yeah, he had the number one mantelpiece before like well before Bill Moore, and then you came along and you've held that, I had a look at your list. I mean, your listings are incredible. Tell me, you've been a partner of a few businesses, right? Before Sotheby's
Yeah.
Double. I remember.
Yes, it was Rain and Horn Double Bay prior. That was from the year 2000. So that was with myself, Barry Goldman, Martin Maskin, and Rick Serrao. And then I sold my shares to Mark Goldman, who was Barry's brother. I had owned a quarter of the business. And then I started Sotheby's. That was next month is 12 years ago.
Yeah, so can we go back, Michael, to business ownership with partners? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you're a great salesperson, what's been your experience as a business owner with partners?
Oh, I enjoyed it. I've enjoyed everything I've done. I loved having partners. I thought it was great. But my wife's a great business person, Lulu, and
Mm,
she persuaded me about 12 and a half years ago that better to go on our own and
mm,
do it on our own. So that's what we did. But I really enjoyed it. But what I did find, there was four of us. We had four partners. And I did find when there were four of us that we used to spend the money. We used to splurge the money a bit because we used to always think, oh, it's only about a quarter. So
yeah.
I remember Rick Serrao coming in one day and he said, I've got an idea. We're going to buy a brand new Mercedes and we'll just give it away. We'll just give it away to one of our clients over the spring break. And the four of us sat in the meeting. It's like, that sounds like a good idea. How much is that going to cost? Oh, it's about 20 grand each. Yeah, we'll just do that. So we were paying. So we just blew like $80,000 and gave someone a Mercedes. And then but business was doing really well at the time. But I also remember Martin Maskin, my other partner, he said, oh, we'll go big. We'll go into a really big office. We'll take the biggest office in Double Bay. And we're like, how much is that going to cost? Oh, it's only going to cost us $250 a day. And that's all right, it's $250 a day. But what we didn't realize, if you multiply that by four, being four partners, that's $365,000 a year was the rent. So
Yeah.
we were paying a lot of rent. We were just blowing the costs out. We had a financial controller, and then we had a deputy financial controller, and then we had a CEO, and then we had a deputy CEO, and then we had a head of property management, a deputy head of property management. So the business was really making good money, but we were just churning through the money. We weren't really making. I don't think we were really making a profit. We were just blowing all the money. But we had such a great time, so I wouldn't change it. It was really
Yeah,
good.
it's funny. Yeah. I mean, even when I was at Bresic Winnie, there were times where we had no profit. And maybe
Yeah,
if I stayed
people
an
don't realize it.
if I stayed an agent, I probably would have made more money just if I was an
Oh,
agent.
there's no doubt. There's no
You see what I mean?
if you can get a yeah, if you can get a good split as an agent, you'll definitely make more money. And I think the way, well, I learned later on, right? The way to do it is you basically get a good split working where you work, get your PA, make you good money, and out of the cash flow, go and buy investment properties. That's where you make more money than anything.
But I think there is something about business ownership too, because there is a legacy there, and you get to make your own decisions, and
Yeah,
you put together the team that you want, and you kind of get to
yeah.
do it your way. So it's kind of it depends what you want. Um,
But what
oh,
I found now is what seems to work really well is a top agent building their own team, and they might have 5 or 6 other people that work with them
yeah,
within an organization. That seems to work the best, because when you're running an actual office and you have to start everything by, so there's a lot of distractions. But if you can just get in there with your team and run it as your own business within a business, I think that's really the goal. That's the way to do it. And then invest in investment properties. Do what your clients do, successful clients do.
yeah, because it feels to me that agents and high performers work about 60 hours a week. Okay, roughly.
Yeah, you'd
Some
know because you're training.
I train a lot of them. So it's like, roughly 60, some 55, some as many as 65, 70. And Nick Wise, one of your guys, actually is one of the hardest workers. I think Nick clocks up about 70 hours a week, which is too much. But
Wow, that's amazing.
oh, mate, he's one of the hardest. Anyway, and you're seeing his success, but I wouldn't recommend 70
Yeah,
hours. But
I think he told me he's up about 100% on where he was at last year, and I think he was pretty high last year.
his numbers are really shot up. But so your energy towards your work, has that changed since you got into the industry at 33 and 20, now 20 odd years?
Oh, I think I enjoy it much more now. Just so much fun now, because it was a struggle. It was so hard. It was just so hard to get listings, and it was difficult building a name and all that kind of thing. So, and also, as you said, financially, we'd go into Christmas. I remember we'd go into the Christmas break and we'd be like, oh my God, we're going to sort of break even for January, December, January, and it wasn't easy to break even. So there was a lot of pressure on us.
Hmm.
And now it's the business just coming in all the time because of repeat clients and things like that. So it's just great now. I just love it. I'm just having the time of my life every day now.
Yeah, but you've earned that. So you've earned through all your hard work, hustle, your execution, your results, and you have the name. And a lot of your heroes are now moved on or even passed away. Like,
Yeah, that's what's happened the last 5 years. A lot of
oh,
the people that
sure.
were my competition basically are not around anymore. They've either retired or they've passed away.
So you're now seen as that. You for the last decade, Michael, you've been seen as that guy. You with me? I might have lost you.
Yeah, I know. No, you're right. Oh, is that okay now?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
better.
So what
But for,
happens
for the
now?
last,
I've probably got a win.
you go.
Yeah, I might have a 10-year window now where I have lots of repeat clients coming back and all that kind of thing. And I love some new younger agents coming through. And they often say to me, I don't know how you get so many listings. How do you get the time to do it and all that? It's actually, I don't actually go for the list. I don't go out there to try and get the listing. The phone just rings and people say, I want to sell this, I want to sell that, or you sold my friend's place, or a lawyer
Yeah,
rings up and says you did a good job for my client. It just rings all the time. But that's taken 27 years to get to that point.
that's right. And that's why I don't like having conversations about what you do today because it's irrelevant for 99.999% of people. Because
Hmm.
what
Yeah,
you
take
did,
your point.
no, it's irrelevant. How many years do you think you got in pretty late at 33, late at that time? How
Yeah.
many years
I'm
did it,
59 now. I'm now 59.
yeah, so how many years did it take when you started at McGrath to really feel that you were getting traction and getting a look and you're on the shopping list?
3 years. Took 3 years. The first 3 years was very hard. The first year was mind-numbingly hard. It was
Right.
just rejection after rejection after rejection.
But after
Yeah.
3 years, you started nailing some sales, you started to get some momentum, you started to make money, and that's when you said, this is now. And then when did it get really good for you?
Oh, probably about 10 years ago. Then it was really good. Yeah, I'd say 10 years ago. The last 10 to 12 years have been really good.
Yeah.
But
So
before that was good too, don't get me wrong. It's good all the
no,
way
but
through, really. But yeah,
yeah, you're saying it took you 3 years to build momentum. It took you another 10 years to keep grinding and really compete, but you were competing with all the double bay grandfathers of the industry, godfathers, if you like.
yeah,
But the last 12 years, as they've departed, moved on, or become less relevant, and you've gained more traction, more results. It's just gotten better and better.
Yeah, in fact, funny enough, yesterday a client rang me yesterday about selling a property for him, and Barry Goldman and I went in there when we were probably 3, 4 years into it when we started,
Yeah.
and I remember sitting with this particular client, and he looked at us and he said, "You guys, you know Bart Doff, you know Bill Maloof, you're not at their level." I remember, and he called me yesterday selling a property, so that's how long I've been dealing with it for. But I remember that, and I remember another client when I started from Mercedes. She said to me, "Oh my God, you've made the biggest mistake you'll ever make. They'll eat you up. They'll eat you up, and they'll spit you out in Double Bay and the agents there. You'll never survive." And about when was that? 27 years ago. About 5 years ago, about selling her my soul place up in Bellevue Hill. So that was a very nice feeling. A lot of people told me when you start in real estate, the best advice I can give, if people tell you you can't do it, don't listen to them. Just make sure you work really hard, because I had so many people telling me there's no way I can succeed in Double Bay. And if I'd listened to them, I would have been probably still selling cars.
Yeah.
So I think don't listen to the people that are negative. Stick with the people that are positive. As long as you know you put the work in, you do the very best you can for your clients, and you get them the very best price you can. If you can talk to enough people every day and you can be in it long enough, you will 100% be successful. It's not
Oh.
a difficult formula.
Now,
But don't listen to negative people.
a lot of people don't know you that well. Is that because you're very focused on your craft? I mean, you don't do many things publicly. Like why don't you put your name in for real estate awards? Why don't you speak in offices like, I'm surprised you said yes to this, actually. I know we're friends, so I appreciate it. But
Oh no, I would do it, just not many. I know, I'd definitely do it. Just not many people ask me to do it. So that I love doing all this sort of stuff. And the real estate awards,
how
the
do
reason I
people,
don't do those,
how
I'm a
do
bit
people,
private.
sorry, Mike, how do people not ask you
I,
given what you've achieved?
I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know. But the thing is that the real estate awards, I don't like all the stuff about, you did this sale and you earn that kind of money. I actually don't know how many properties I sell a year. I don't know how much money I make or I don't make. I actually don't know. As long as I'm making a bit more than I like that cost me every year, I'm happy. Can go the next year because I actually enjoy it. So I know I'm heading at the. I'm pretty sure that I'm heading. I'm pretty sure that like I'm
Tracking.
not going backwards at the
Yeah.
moment. So as long as I'm not going backwards, I'll just keep doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's right. Exactly.
how would you
I
say
did
you're
look up my sales. I actually did look up my. I did look up my sales. Or Francis, who I work with, he looked up my sales. I think it was last year, and he said it was about 800 and something million in sales. That was last year,
there
so it
you
was
go.
a lot more than I thought.
Tell me would you say you're a fierce competitor? Like, how competitive are you?
Oh no, not at all. No, I'm actually not competitive at all. No, I just do the best I can do myself. I don't worry about what other people can do. I never worry about that. As long as I get upset with myself if I haven't done the best I could do. Does that make sense?
It does, but you say you lose a list, like say you lose a couple listings that you thought you were going to
Yeah.
get to one of your competitors. How do you feel about that?
Oh, well, I would look back and I'd say, well, I must have done something that wasn't right. I need to fine tune and improve what I'm doing. That's what I do. So I don't think it's anything to do with, I don't think it's personally competition. I know a lot of people are very competitive, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm competitive at all. No.
Interesting. That's really. And what do you do? Like, are you working 7 days a week, or are you? And
No.
if you're not
I
working,
used,
what do you do when you're not working? Because I actually don't. I have no
oh
idea
yeah. How many days a week do you work?
now or back at Bresic Whitney.
Both.
Or Bresic Whitney 6 days a week, and when it was a busy time, I'd go in on a Sunday just to organise my week or do some callbacks. So sometimes it was seven, mostly
Yeah.
six. These days, Mike, I sold out because I wanted a different lifestyle. And that
Yeah,
was
which is great. I really admire that.
Thank you, mate. Yeah, it was the best decision I ever did was start Bresic Whitney. The second best decision was actually leave when I left at 40
Yep.
to do
Yep.
and like when we first started real estate back in 27, 26 years ago, I loved real estate and I was so passionate about it. I kind of lost a bit of the passion during my late 30s at Bresic Whitney, maybe because it was a big business and staff and everything. But now doing what I've done the last 5 years, I love it. I actually love
I
this as
think
much as I did in real estate.
I just think it's remarkable what you've achieved because I saw you working in property management at McGrath. So I know what you were doing. I used to talk to you at the photocopier, remember?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I watched you go from there to building up that huge business to
Thanks.
selling out that very successfully and now, living the life you want to live. But also the one thing I do know is the agents that you train are pretty much superstars, aren't they? I'm amazed at how many properties they sell. I mean, Maclay Longhurst, who is one of your best friends and you train him, I think Maclay sold 167 properties last year, didn't he?
He did 175 last year.
175, unbelievable. I think his turnover's up 100% this year on what he was last year because he's doing a higher prices now. Is that right?
No, no, no. Sorry, I'll correct you. His average sale price has almost doubled. His
Right.
transaction
Okay.
his transactions have gone backwards as it would because his average
Oh,
sale
I
price
see. Right.
has doubled. But that's why he came to Sotheby's. He joined you guys
Yeah.
because he wanted one to have his own shop and create something,
Yep.
and two because
Yeah.
he wanted to get away from the smaller stuff and you know list and sell bigger stuff. He wanted to challenge himself, and so far he's been really happy with that decision.
He's very successful. And
Yeah.
he's got a team now of how many? Has he got 13 people in his team now?
I think he's got about 7 or 8 at the moment, but he's growing all the time.
Someone told me the other day he's got 13 in his team.
Has he? I'll
I th
check, I'll confirm that. It's definitely more than 7. I don't know if it's as many as 13, but if it's not, it won't be too long before it is, I think.
Yeah, no, I take your point. But I just find people like that remarkable. I
Yeah,
find Alex Phillips remarkable. I can't believe the volume that he's,
incredible.
he's amazing.
Yeah.
And they're all good, really good people. They've just all got time for you when you talk to them, and very successful, very happy people. I find a busy agent is normally a very happy agent, and I think in a company too, a busy agent's the best because they haven't got time to worry about small things. They're just
Yeah,
wanting to
it's
get deals
true.
done.
Well, there's a reason why they're so busy. It's because their attitude and behaviors and what they focus on. So
It's a very good point.
they have a level of urgency. They've got overheads. They've got a team. They're leaders. Their phone's blowing up with inquiries and listings. So, like, yeah, mate, Phillips, McLeay, and James Ball has been an incredible
Uh,
ambassador at
and
Sotheby's.
isn't he the best guy?
Mate, he's so humble. And I've got to say, he of all the people that I've coached, including McLeay that I've worked with, I'd say James is the agent that has had the most impact that in my life as a coach because I've seen him go from here to here to here to here to here, and he's still only 33 years old.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? And he's such a nice person. You can
He's
always talk to him, and he's just never got a big ego on him or anything like that. And he's just great.
Yeah, he's good. So what do you do? What will you do when you're not sort of working? Will you just relax? Will you read? Will you go for a walk? Do you go to a
Yeah.
cafe?
No,
Do you
I
get
spend
out
the
of
day with my wife.
do you stay in Sydney? Do you what do you do?
Yeah, so I generally work 6 days a week, and then
Yeah.
I take Sunday off. I just love Saturday nights. I love Saturday night, and I love Sunday. So I normally spend the time with my wife, go do some exercise, walk around the place, go and get some food, just have a good time. Go out with my stepson William, and because I've been with my wife, William's 24, and I've been with my wife now for 20 years. So since he was 4 years old, so he's basically my son, right? So we often go out for dinner on a Sunday night, have a good time. So it's just great. We just enjoy life. That's what we do. Sunday is just wonderful.
And what's the when you see young agents, because you've been in this industry now for 27 years, when you see
Yep.
young agents today working your market, or what's the mistakes that you see they're making, Michael?
Oh, I do see. I think they shouldn't try and canvass owners all the time, call them non-stop, because a lot of owners don't want them calling them. And I went to a house yesterday we've got coming onto the market, and the owner's this massive bunch of flowers on his table. He says, "Guess where that bunch of flowers is from?" I said, "What?" He said, "Oh, this agent was ringing me, kept ringing me all the time. I kept telling him not to ring me." Young agent, and he said the final straw was he rang me on Sunday when we were having dinner, having lunch, and he said. So I rang the head office of, he's with one of the big French, he rang the French and this apologized. A good way to create relationships with owners. If owners tell you, don't ring me, I don't want to hear from you, and it's a cold call, just don't ring them. I mean, I think it's out of control with young agents ringing people and saying they've got buyers and being disingenuous, saying they've got buyers for property buyers,
Yeah.
just to be employed. and
Hang
take
on.
it one step at a time. You can't set the world on fire straight away. It's possible. Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea to call people and say you've got buyers for their houses if you haven't really got a buyer. So I think what they do, a lot of these young agents, what they do, they call a street and they say, we've had someone that's identified they want to buy your house. Would you consider selling? Now, some people, not many people are naive, but some are, older people perhaps, not tuned in with the market. They think, oh, I was thinking of selling my house. The next thing, the young agent's down there with 5 buyers agents trying to see if they've got a buyer for the house.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think it's
Yeah.
good because people, it's not a good idea. It's not a good idea.
Okay, well,
So
let me ask
just,
you this. Let me ask
just,
you this then. What should a young agent do,
yeah.
Michael?
Oh, I think the best thing to do is do what James Dack said to me. Team up with a good, successful agent in the area.
Yeah,
And even if you want to be their PA, just help them out, or EA, and learn what the agent's saying. Listen to the scripts and dialogues. It's not rocket science. I mean, it's straight down the line, but there's certain questions that you ask buyers to qualify them.
yeah,
And you need to find out what price range they're considering. And you don't say, what's your budget? You say, what price would you consider for the right home? Things like that. So it's all about learning the dialogue. And then once you've learned that, it'll take you a few years to work with them. Then you can go out on your own and you'll meet a whole lot of people, and eventually you'll meet enough people to keep you busy.
yes,
And the word gets out there you're doing well. That's how I've done it anyway. It's taken me a long time, but I think that's all you can do if you want to stay in the industry for a long time. There's an Indonesian client that said to me, he said, we have a saying in Indonesia about salespeople, they call it hit and run. They hit you and then they run.
yeah,
And I don't like that idea. I like to stay there and make sure that you do business with people again. Because it's like a good restaurant.
yeah,
A restaurant starts up, everyone's talking about the restaurant, it's got good architecture, whatever. You go there, the food's not that great, you probably don't go back again, and then in 2 years' time, that restaurant's not there. But you go to a restaurant that's got good food, good service, and you come away fully satisfied, reasonable price, ticks all the boxes, you'll go back to that restaurant. And
yeah.
those restaurants stay there for the long term. So you've got to be like that with it as an agent or any business that you're in. You've got to give people really good service, be very honest in your dealings, do the very best you can, be reasonable with them, never be greedy or anything like that. And people will come back to you. And
Great.
it's the most wonderful industry if you do that.
Yeah, great analogy. I
Would you
love
say
that.
that's right?
No, I think that's a great analogy because you've just said, I love using the restaurant analogy. Like, just give good service, be friendly, competitive prices, good food, good environment, good ambience, and you'll last the test of time.
Yeah.
If you're going to go in and do this, all the
Yeah, no way.
tools, but nothing underneath it, it'll be for lease in 2 years.
Yeah, that's right. So it's similar. I've seen this in real estate. People get into it and then they burn their clients and then they don't get business again. But if you do the opposite and do the right thing for everyone that you deal with, you have more business than you don't need to worry about the phones ringing. They just ring all the time.
Yeah, it's
But it
true.
takes time. It all takes time. But if you're feeling down as an agent when you start out, it's a psychological thing. If you're feeling down, just think what I used to think about. If I would lose a listing or it wasn't going well, I think about the listing that I got, the one good listing that I might have got. I think, what did I do there? I spent 8 hours writing the proposal and I was attentive with the owner. The owner gave me the business. I then followed up every single buyer that came through, marketed the property well, got a great result at the auction, and everyone was happy. So I know I've done it once. I know I can do it again. So then that's how I kept going. And I just knew I could do it. And so even though I was getting knocked back a lot, I knew I could do a good job. And also, when you meet people at open for inspections, you're on show at the open for inspection. If the property's presented well, it's well manned, you've got your assistant working there with you, you follow people up, you answer them the questions, you know all about the property, they'll go away and they'll say, gee, that agent was good. I'm going to sell my house. I may give them a call. I think they'd be a good agent to look after me. So I think it's a pretty simple formula and a lot of repetition. But if you can repeat it long enough and do a great job and build a good name in the area, it's just life's like that, right? Even if you're married, you just got to be respectful to your partner, do the right thing by them, and chances are you'll have a good relationship. And it's just like that when you're dealing with clients too, isn't it? It's no different.
And I
And the same with the people you work
just
with.
just before you,
Respect for people.
yeah,
Yeah,
just before you, I had a conversation with Marcus Chiminello this morning from Melbourne, and
yeah.
great guy, and he said exactly the same thing. He goes, it takes time. You got to be. Is there things about this industry that frustrate you at times, or are you always happy?
No, I'm very happy. I think it's amazing. I think real estate's incredible. I couldn't do it. I wouldn't want to do anything more,
So
anything else.
even if a seller did got upset with you or did the wrong thing or a competitor did this or that, do you have do you have a bad day? Do you have a bad week?
No, never really have a bad day. No, don't really have a bad day. What have we got to worry about? I mean, life's great. That's how I look at it. I wake up every day. I can't believe how good life is.
I
I
love.
turn my TV on at night time when I get home and I see the Ukraine and the bombings going on, all that. I think, we're so lucky living here, aren't we? What have we
Yeah.
got to worry about? So, as long as you know you've got a good conscience and you haven't done the wrong thing by anyone, you can have a great life. Don't you think so? You don't need that much in life either. I mean, it's just as long as you're comfortable and you can pay your bills and look after your family, keep good health. Do you need any more than that?
I think the health's the first one. I put health above, everything because I think without health you got nothing.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of all things, right? So you've got to be happy and you've got to have good health, got to have balance, get enough sleep, and but some people, they can't help it. They have health issues they can't help. But I really respect people that have been quite ill and then bounce back. I find it amazing. There's an
Yeah.
amazing book. There's a person, a very successful person in the car industry. His name is Neville Crichton.
I
There's a
know.
book written on his life. That guy is amazing. He's late 70s now, highly successful,
Yeah.
running a huge business. Well, talk about against all odds. He grew up in a farm in New Zealand. He had absolutely nothing. He came to Sydney. He then got cancer, I think, in his throat. He had
Yeah.
all these cancer operations when he was about 28 to 30. He then went on to win the Sydney to Hobart yacht race, even though if he falls into the water, he's got a hole in his throat because of this cancer he had. If he falls into the water, he dies instantly. He then goes and wins the Sydney to Hobart yacht race. He then goes and races at Bathurst. Oh, what an amazing person that guy is. And I was talking to him because he's
Super
the client I deal
successful.
with.
Yeah.
I know. I said to him, I read the book on your life. It was amazing. He said, that's only 1/10 of my life. He said, my real life's far more interesting than that. So you look at people like that and you think, if they can do it with all the setbacks they've got, for
Mm.
us, it's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Yeah, there's inspiration everywhere. And super successful. Where did you get your work ethic from? Like, was it your upbringing? Like, like, were you were you good at school, no good at school?
Yeah,
Like,
average,
when you look
pretty
back
average.
now, when you look back at your first 20 years, why was Michael Pallier such a hardworking, disciplined person towards their craft? I know you could say, well, I love real estate. Put that aside because it comes with you, even if you love real estate, you still need the discipline and hard work ethic. And no one can teach you that. You've got to have it inside. Where did that come from?
Yeah. Firstly, I enjoy everything I've done, right? So I wouldn't do it if I didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed being in the car industry too. So I've always had a job I've enjoyed, which has been wonderful.
Mm.
And it's getting back to that thing where you say, I'll do the best of my own ability. Now, I might not have, like James Dack is a very handsome, very suave, amazing. He's got amazing skills. Well, I probably don't have the skill set that he's got, but I work as hard as I can possibly work to do as well as I can. Does that sort of make sense? So
Yes.
you've got to know what
But
you
but I'm curious,
strengths are, your weaknesses are.
where did you get that ethic from? Was it from your
I
parents
actually
or
don't know.
you don't know?
No, my parents have always been very decent, hardworking people. So yeah,
Uh,
they would definitely be a role model. But where did you get
uh,
to be so driven? Where did you get that from?
I shortly before around the time I started at McGrath, my father had an accident and he got 80% of his body burnt. And not like
Wow.
Yeah, and he survived, and he's still alive today, thankfully. But I was competitive at school in sports, but I was never really good at school and sport. But I wanted to be good, and then I kind of got into real estate with you guys early on, doing leasing, and I was like, I actually enjoyed it. It made me feel important, and it gave me some security. And home life sucked, a bit like James Dack's home life sucked. John McGrath's home life sucked. Shannon's was not great. So I think as a result of all that, and I think working for John in the early days, it gave me a confidence that I didn't have because I was a pretty lost, insecure late teenager. And
Oh,
then,
remarkable. It's
and
remarkable.
then mate, we start selling houses and I buy a BMW, which my friends were at university. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. And then I buy an
Yeah.
apartment when I'm 21 years old in Bondi Junction, and I've got my friends coming over, and I own a BMW, some nice suits, and a beautiful one bedroom with a view. And so, like, I think yeah, I don't know, mate. Like you, my parents were hard workers, and I went through a thing that I wouldn't wish upon anybody with my father. But I
Yeah.
find it interesting that you've always had that hard work ethic, Michael.
Yeah,
Well,
no, but I've always just enjoyed it. I just enjoy it. It's for me, it's not actually like work. I just love
yeah,
doing what I'm doing.
yeah,
No,
you're
so
right.
that's what it's all about.
No, that's a good point. Because if you love what you do, it's like it's fine. It's not. I don't feel. I think it's great. Listen, well done on the success of your person. Your real estate sales life. Sotheby's is growing a lot with a lot of the guys I work with. Um,
Thanks to you, Ivan.
Oh, I don't know, mate. Look.
True.
I think it's a good brand. I love Bressic. I love it. I want the best for the agents that I work with. I mean, I've obviously got a soft spot for Bressic Winnie, and they're doing great. I want
Yeah.
the best for the agents, but the guys that are working with you, I love working with you. And mate, you've done so well, and I'm so like I love seeing you do well because you deserve it, and you're humble, and so like,
Thanks, Ivan.
mate, you deserve
That's
it.
very.
Thanks for your
Speaking
time.
to my wife the other day, I said, "Geez, I'm turning 60 next May, and I said, "Do you think I should be taking it easier?" She said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "We're just getting started." I said, "You got to be
Oh,
joking."
she's
So,
a good business. She's a good behind every good man. There's a good woman, right?
oh yeah, if it wasn't for Lulu, my God, she runs everything. So she's great. She's
Hey,
just great. So
one last question. You're selling all these 10, 20, 30, 50, $100 million homes. What's
yeah,
the if what's the sort of has there been a sale that took you a long time that you got there, which was a big sale, that you can talk about? Like what's the one that really stands out?
I think the one that Clint Ballard that I worked with made was amazing. I had nothing to do with it, but I really admire him. I mean, Clint Ballard sold a house for $130 million in Point Piper, and he created the deal out of nothing. So yeah, he's pretty amazing what he did there. So
Where was that? Was that this year or last year?
that was not last year, the year before. That's the most expensive house ever sold in Australia, 130 million. But he never talks about it. He's very humble,
I know
But he pulled off the biggest
I know
sale
the
ever.
commission. I know the commission rate that he got on that. And I was like, wow, that's
Did you
great.
say?
I won't say it now because it's confidential, but like I was like, that's pretty good for one
Yeah,
deal.
he didn't. Put it this way, he didn't have to reduce his fee at all. So, and wonderful negotiation.
Mate, well done, mate. Hey, congratulations on all of your success. You deserve it. I appreciate our friendship. I do.
Yeah, you too, Ivan. Can't
I,
thank you. It's so good. 27 years. Can you believe it?
long, mate, and
Next month,
what a
27.
great 27 years it's been for both of us. So, mate,
Look how fit you
keep up
are.
the
Look how
great
fit you
work.
are. 27.
Thank you, mate.
How do you keep so fit? How do
I
you keep so fit? What's your
good question. I dedicate a lot of time and discipline around it to my health, my wellness, my obviously the gym, what I eat. I haven't drunk out. I know you don't drink alcohol. I haven't drunk alcohol for 3 years. That was a big change. But
yeah?
I've always
A lot
loved
of
I've always loved exercise. But when I was in real estate, I couldn't dedicate as much time to it as I have the last 5 years. And like I'm
would
46 now,
you say you're
and
more
sorry, you go.
yeah, you look amazing.
Thank you.
Say you're can you can you stand up? Remember when you're in Bondi, you showed me your stomach?
Oh, I'm not
Can
gonna.
you do that now?
I'm not gonna. I'm
Just
not.
do it now. Like it's
I,
unbelievable. 46 years old.
I,
I mean, look at that. 46 years old. Unbelievable. Like a
I,
25-year-old. But that's amazing, huh?
You've embarrassed me. But you know what? It's something that is important to me. Like I actually want to be in the top 1% health.
Isn't that amazing? Would you say you're more fit now at 46 than you were when you were 26?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so that's remarkable. And that's all about extending that longevity in life because you realize once you get to about 50, you haven't got that long to go. You might have 20, 30 good years. So you've got to
Yeah,
try and lengthen that out.
well, we hope. Yeah, and you want them to be good years because we're working at things. But I've got a son who's 2.5, so I want to be active at 55 and 60 and 65 and 70. So it starts now, not then. But I know you do the
But
same.
look at what
But I
but
always. Sorry, you go.
look look what your parents were like when they were 46. Their health was probably not nearly as good, right?
Not at all. Not at all.
It's quite
But
remarkable today. Yeah.
yeah, but look, it's horses for it's what people choose to do and where they want to. Part of my coaching, I spend a lot of time on wellness. I actually spend a lot of
Yeah.
time because the fitter that James Ball is and the better lifestyle decisions that Nick Wise is making and the less alcohol that Maclay Longhurst drinks, the better their results. It's pretty simple. So,
All the people that all the people that I work with that are very successful are all very health conscious and all get up early in the morning. They get their 7 or 8 hours sleep. They
yeah,
generally don't drink. They exercise every day.
yeah,
And it just leads all the way. It's a whole thing, isn't it? And it just makes you successful. I think also you have to make quick decisions when you're dealing with people's money and all that kind of thing. You have to make the right decisions. So if you clear head, you don't want to be like, oh my God, I was out last night. I don't feel too good. But I noticed the last generation of agents, a lot of them were not that fit, but this new generation coming through are totally different.
Yeah, because I think social media and technologies advanced information around health and wellness, and the science is there now where it wasn't there 20 years ago. But
Yeah,
anyway,
it's a good.
mate, you're a legend. We'll finish on that note. You embarrassed me, mate. I had to show you when you asked me, but I've still got work to do. It's like real estate. Health never, you don't get to a point and go, I've arrived. It's like real estate. You got to keep going, you got to keep going, you got to keep going.
It's funny. McClay just got back from his holidays. He was away for a month for his
That's right.
holiday,
Six
and
weeks,
he came
six
back.
weeks, 6 weeks he
Oh,
was all.
6 weeks. He came back all suntanned, and he walked into the room, and Francis, who I work with, said, "Geez, you look fit, McClay." And McClay said, "I've only got 6 packs left. I've only got six left."
That's
But he
such a,
looks so
that's exactly what he would have said. That's funny. Hey, mate, I really appreciate your time. And mate, I hope you have a good spring.
excited.
All right, mate. You're a legend.
You too, Ivan. Great
See
to
you,
speak.
mate. Thanks.
Thanks again.
Talk soon. Bye,
Bye.
champ.